the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Parva. Section 207, Vidugamna Parva continued. Vasampayana said, after Drona had ceased, Vidura spoke, saying, O monarch, thy friends without doubt are saying unto thee what is for thy good. But as thou art unwilling to listen to what they say, their words scarcely find a place in thy ears. What that foremost one of Kuru's race viz. Bhishma, the son of Santanu, hath said, is excellent and is for thy good. But thou dost not listen to it. The preceptor Drona also hath said much that is for thy good, which however Kama, the son of Radha, doth not regard to be such. But, O king, reflecting hard, I do not find any one who is better friend to thee than either of these two lions among men, viz. Bhishma and Drona, or any one who excels either of them in wisdom. These two, old in years, in wisdom, and in learning, always regard thee, O king, and the sons of Pandu with equal eyes without doubt, O king of Bharata's race. They are both, in virtue and truthfulness, not inferior to Rama, the son of Dasharatha, and C.I.E. Never before did they give thee any evil advice. Thou also, O monarch, hast never done them any injury. Why should, therefore, these tigers among men, who are ever truthful, give thee wicked advice, especially when thou hast never injured them? Endued with wisdom, these foremost of men, O king, will never give thee counsels that are crooked. O scion of Kuru's race, this is my firm conviction that these two, as they acquainted are with all rules of morality, will never, tempted by wealth, utter anything betraying a spirit of partisanship. What they have said, O Bharata, I regard highly beneficial to thee. Without doubt, O monarch, the Pandavas are thy sons as much as Duryodhana and others are. Those ministers, therefore, that give thee any counsel fraught with evil unto the Pandavas, do not really look to thy interests. If there is any partiality in thy heart, O king, for thy own children, they who by their counsel seek to bring it out, certainly do thee no good. Therefore, O king, these illustrious persons endued with great splendor, have not, I think, said anything that leadeth to evil. Thou however dost not understand it. What these bulls among men have said regarding the invincibility of the Pandavas is perfectly true. Think not otherwise of it, O tiger among men. Blessed be thou, Ike, and the handsome Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu, using the right and the left hand with equal active, be vanquished in battle even by Mahabharat himself. Can the great Bhimsena of strong arms, possessing the might of 10,000 elephants, be vanquished in battle by the immortals themselves? Who also that desireth to live can overcome in battle the twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, like unto the sons of Yam himself, and well skilled in fight? How too can the eldest one of the Pandavas, in whom patience, mercy, forgiveness, truth, and prowess always live together, be vanquished? They who have Rama, Valadeva, as their ally, and Janardana, Krishna, as their counselor, and Satyaki as their partisan, whom have they not already defeated in war? They who have Drupta for their father-in-law, and Drupta's sons the heroic brothers, viz. Drishtadayumna and others of Prishata's race for their brothers-in-law, are certainly invincible. Remembering this, O monarch, and knowing that their claim to the kingdom is even prior to thine, behave virtuously towards them. The stain of calumny is on thee, O monarch, in consequence of that act of Purochna. Wash thyself of it now, by a kindly behavior towards the Pandavas. This kindly behavior of thine, O monarch, towards the Pandavas will be an act of great benefit to us, protecting the lives of us all that belong to Kuru's race, and leading to the growth of the whole Kshatriya order. We had formerly warred with King Drupada. If we can now secure him as an ally, it will strengthen our party. The Dasrahas, O king, are numerous and strong. Know where Krishna is, all of them must be, and where Krishna is, their victory also must be. O king, who, unless cursed by the gods, would seek to effect that by means of war which can be effected by conciliation. Hearing that the sons of Pritha are alive, the citizens and other subjects of the realm have become exceedingly glad and eager for beholding them. O monarch, act in a way that is agreeable to them. Duryodhana and Kama and Sakuni the son of Suvala, are sinful, foolish and young, listen not to them. Possessed of every virtue as thou art, I long ago told thee, O monarch, that for Duryodhana's fault, the subjects of this kingdom would be exterminated. Thus ends the 207th section in the Vidugamna Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 208, Vidugamna Parva continued. Vasampayana said, hearing these various speeches, Dhritarashtra said, the learned Bhishma, the son of Santanu, and the illustrious Bhishi Drona, and thyself also, O Vidura, have said the truth and what also is most beneficial to me. Indeed, as those mighty warriors the heroic sons of Kunti are the children of Pandu, so are they, without doubt, my children according to the ordinance. And as my sons are entitled to this kingdom, so are the sons of Pandu certainly entitled to it. Therefore, hie thee, O Kshatri, and bring hither the Pandavas along with their mother, treating them with affectionate consideration. O thou of Bharata's race, bring also Krishna of celestial beauty along with them. From sheer good fortune the sons of Pritha are alive, and from good fortune alone those mighty warriors have obtained the daughter of Drupada. It is from good fortune alone that our strength hath increased, and it is from good fortune alone that Purochna hath perished. O thou of great splendor, it is from good fortune that my great grief hath been killed. Vasampayana continued, then Vidura, at the command of Dhritarashtra, repaired, O Bharata, unto Yajnasena and the Pandavas. And he repaired thither carrying with him numerous jewels and various kinds of wealth for Draupadi and the Pandavas, and Yajnasena also. Arrived at Drupada's abode, Vidura, conversant with every rule of morality and deep in every science, properly accosted the monarch and waited upon him. Drupada received Vidura in proper form, and they both inquired after each other's welfare. Vidura then saw there the Pandavas and Vasudeva. As soon as he saw them, he embraced them from affection and inquired after their well-being. The Pandavas also, along with Vasudeva, in due order, worshipped Vidura of immeasurable intelligence. But Vidura, O king, in the name of Dhritarashtra repeatedly inquired with great affection after their welfare. He then gave way, O monarch, unto the Pandavas and Kunti and Draupadi, and unto Drupada and Drupada's sons, the gems and various kinds of wealth that the Kauravas had sent through him. Possessed of immeasurable intelligence, the modest Vidura then, in the presence of the Pandavas and Keshava, addressed the well-behaved Drupada thus: with thy ministers and sons, O monarch, listen to what I say. King Dhritarashtra, with ministers, sons, and friends, hath with a joyous heart, O king, repeatedly inquired after thy welfare. And, O monarch, he hath been highly pleased with this alliance with thee. So also, O king, Bhishma of great wisdom, the son of Santanu, with all the Kurus, inquired after the welfare in every respect. Drona also of great wisdom, the son of Bharadwaja and thy dear friend, embracing thee mentally, inquired of thy happiness. And, O king of Panchalas, Dhritarashtra and all the Kurus, in consequence of this alliance with thee, regard themselves supremely blessed. O Yajnasena, the establishment of this alliance with thee hath made them happier than if they had acquired a new kingdom. Knowing all this, O monarch, permit the Pandavas to revisit their ancestral kingdom. The Kurus are exceedingly eager to behold the sons of Pandu. These bulls among men have been long absent from their kingdom. They as well as Pritha must be very eager to behold their city. And all the Kuru ladies and the citizens and our subjects are eagerly waiting to behold Krishna, the Panchala princes. This, therefore, is my opinion, O monarch, that thou shouldst, without delay, permit the Pandavas to go thither with their wife. And after the illustrious Pandavas, O king, will have received thy permission to go thither, I shall send information unto Dhritarashtra by quick messengers. Then, O king, will the Pandavas set out with Kunti and Krishna. Thus ends the 208th section in the Vidugamna Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 209, Vidugamna Parva continued. Vasampayana said, hearing these words of Vidura, Drupda said, it is even so as thou, O Vidura of great wisdom, hast said. Venerable one, I too have been exceedingly happy in consequence of this alliance. It is highly proper that these illustrious princes should return to their ancestral kingdom. But it is not proper for me to say this myself. If the brave son of Kunti, viz. Yudhishthira, if Bhima and Arjuna, if these bull among men, viz. The twins, themselves desire to go, and if Rama, Valadeva, and Krishna, both acquainted with every rule of morality, be of the same mind, then let the Pandavas go thither. For these tigers among men, Rama and Krishna, are ever engaged in doing what is agreeable and beneficial to the sons of Pandu. Hearing this, Yudhishthira said, we are now, O monarch, with all our younger brothers, dependent on thee. We shall cheerfully do what thou art pleased to command. Vasampayana continued, then Vasudeva said, I am of opinion that the Pandavas should go, but we should all abide by the opinion of King Drupda, who is conversant with every rule of morality. Drupda then spoke, I certainly agree with what this foremost of men, VFE, the heroic Dasratha of strong arms, thinketh, having regard to the circumstances. For the illustrious sons of Pandu now are to me as they are, without doubt, to Vasudeva. Kunti's son Yudhishthira himself doth not seek the welfare of the Pandavas so earnestly as Keshava, that tiger among men. Vasampayana continued, commanded by the illustrious Drupda, the Pandavas then, O king, and Krishna and Vidura, taking with them Krishna, the daughter of Drupda, and the renowned Kunti, journeyed towards the city called after the elephant, stopping at various places along the way for purposes of pleasure and enjoyment. King Dhritarashtra, hearing that those heroes had neared the capital, sent out the Kauravas to receive them. They who were thus sent out were, O Bharata, Vikarn of the great bow, and Chitrasena, and Drona that foremost of warriors, and Kripa of Gautama's line. Surrounded by these, those mighty heroes, their splendor enhanced by that throng, slowly entered the city of Hastinapura. The whole city became radiant, as it were, with the gay throng of sightseers animated by curiosity. Those tigers among men gladdened the hearts of all who beheld them. And the Pandavas, dear unto the hearts of the people, heard, as they proceeded, various exclamations which the citizens, ever desirous of obeying the wishes of those princes, loudly uttered. Some exclaimed, "Here returns that tiger among men, conversant with all the rules of morality and who always protects us as if we were his nearest relatives." And elsewhere the same said, "It seems that King Pandu, the beloved of his people, returneth today from the forest, doubtless to do what is agreeable to us." And there were some that said, "What good is not done to us today when the heroic sons of Kunti come back to our town? If we have ever given away in charity, if we have ever poured libations of clarified butter on the fire, if we have any ascetic merit, let the Pandavas, by virtue of all those acts, stay in our town for 100 years." At last the Pandavas, on arriving at the place, worshipped the feet of Dhritarashtra, as also those of the illustrious Bhishma. They also worshipped the feet of everybody else that deserved that honor. And they inquired after the welfare of every citizen there present. At last, at the command of Dhritarashtra, they entered the chambers that had been assigned to them. After they had rested there for some time, they were summoned to the court by King Dhritarashtra and Bhishma the son of Santanu. When they came, King Dhritarashtra, addressing Yudhishthira, said, "Listen, O son of Kunti, with thy brothers, to what I say. Repair ye to Kandava Prastha so that no difference may arise again between you and your cousins. If you take up your quarters there, no one will be able to do you any injury. Protected by Parth, Arjuna, like the celestials by the thunderbolt, reside ye at Kandava Prastha, taking half the kingdom." Vasampayana continued, agreeing to what Dhritarashtra said. Those bulls among men worshipping the king set out from Hastinapur, and content with half the kingdom, they removed to Kandava Prastha, which was an unreclaimed desert. Then those heroes of unfading splendor, viz., the Pandavas, with Krishna at their head, arriving there, beautified the place and made it a second heaven. And those mighty car warriors, selecting with Dwaipayana's assistance a sacred and auspicious region, performed certain propitiatory ceremonies and measured out a piece of land for their city. Then, surrounded by a trench wide as the sea and by walls reaching high up to the heavens and white as the fleecy clouds or the rays of the moon, that foremost of cities looked resplendent like Bhogavati, the capital of the nether kingdom, decked with the Nagas. And it stood adorned with palatial mansions and numerous gates, each furnished with a couple of panels resembling the outstretched wings of Garuda. And it was protected with gateways looking like the clouds and high as the Mandara mountains, and well furnished with numerous weapons of attack. The missiles of the foes could not make the slightest impression on them, and they were almost covered with darts and other missiles like double-tongued snakes. The turrets along the walls were filled with armed men in course of training, and the walls were lined with numerous warriors along their whole length. And there were thousands of sharp hooks and satnis, machines slaying a century of warriors, and numerous other machines on the battlements. There were also large iron wheels planted on them. And with all these was that foremost of cities adorned. The streets were all wide and laid out excellently, and there was no fear in them of accident. And decked with innumerable mansions, the city became like unto Amravati and came to be called Indraprasth, like unto Indra's city. In a delightful and auspicious part of the city rose the palace of the Pandavas, filled with every kind of wealth, and like unto the mansion of the celestial treasurer, Kuvara, himself. And it looked like a mass of clouds charged with lightning. When the city was built, there came, O king, numerous Brahmanas well acquainted with all the Vedas and conversant with every language, wishing to dwell there. And there came also unto that town numerous merchants from every direction, in the hope of earning wealth. There also came numerous persons well skilled in all the arts, wishing to take up their abode there. And around the city were laid out many delightful gardens adorned with numerous trees bearing both fruits and flowers. There were amaras, mango trees, and amratakas, and kadambas and asokas, and champakas, and pannagas and nagas and lakuchas and panasas, and salas and thalas, palm trees, and thamalas and vakulas, and ketkas with their fragrant loads, beautiful and blossoming, and grand amalkas with branches bent down with the weight of fruits, and lodras and blossoming ankolas, and jambas, blackberry trees, and patalas and kunjakas and atimuktas, and karaviras and parijtas and numerous other kinds of trees, always adorned with flowers and fruits and alive with feathery creatures of various species. And those verdant groves always resounded with the notes of maddened peacocks and kokilas, blackbirds. And there were various pleasure houses, bright as mirrors, and numerous bowers of creepers, and charming and artificial hillocks, and many lakes full to the brim of crystal water, and delightful tanks fragrant with lotuses and lilies and adorned with swans and ducks and chakravakas, Brahmani ducks. And there were many delicious pools overgrown with fine aquatic plants. And there were also divers ponds of great beauty and large dimensions. And O king, the joy of the Pandavas increased from day to day, in consequence of their residence in that large kingdom that was peopled with pious men. Thus, in consequence of the virtuous behavior of Bhishma and King Dhritarashtra towards them, the Pandavas took up their abode in Khandava Prastha, adorned with those 5 mighty warriors, each equal unto Indra himself. That foremost of cities looked like Bhogavati, the capital of the nether kingdom, adorned with the Nagas. And, O monarch, having settled the Pandavas there, the heroic Krishna, obtaining their leave, came back with Rama to Dwaravati. Thus ends the 209th section in the Vidugamna Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 210, Rajalabha Parva. Janamejaya said, O thou possessed of ascetic wealth, what did those high-souled ones, my grandsires, the illustrious Pandavas, do, after obtaining the kingdom of Indraprastha? How did their wedded wife Draupadi obey them all? How is it also that no dissensions arose amongst those illustrious rulers of men, all attached to one wife? And the sons of Pandu, endued with great wisdom and devoted to truth and virtue, having vanquished all their foes, continued to live there in great happiness. And those bulls among men, seated on royal seats of great value, used to discharge all the duties of government. And one day, while all those illustrious heroes were so seated, there came unto them the celestial Rishi Narada, in course of his wanderings. Beholding the Rishi, Yudhishthira offered him his own handsome seat. And after the celestial Rishi had been seated, the wise Yudhishthira duly offered him the arg with his own hands. And the king also informed the Rishi of the state of his kingdom. The Rishi, accepting the worship, became well pleased, and eulogizing him with benedictions, commanded the king to take his seat. Commanded by the Rishi, The king took his seat. Then the king sent word unto Krishna, in the inner apartments, of the arrival of the illustrious one. Hearing of the Rishi's arrival, Draupadi, purifying herself properly, came with a respectful attitude to where Narada was with the Pandavas. Any virtuous princess of Panchala, worshipping the celestial Rishi's feet, stood with joined hands before him, properly veiled. The illustrious Narada, pronouncing various benedictions on her, commanded the princess to retire. After Krishna had retired, the illustrious Rishi, addressing in private all the Pandavas with Yudhishthira at their head, said, "The renowned princess of Panchala is the wedded wife of you all. Establish a rule amongst yourselves so that disunion may not arise amongst you." There were, in former days, celebrated throughout the three worlds, two brothers named Sunda and Upasunda living together and incapable of being slain by anybody unless SKW the other. They ruled the same kingdom, lived in the same house, slept on the same bed, sat on the same seat, and ate from the same dish. And yet they killed each other for the sake of Tilottama. Therefore, O Yudhishthira, preserve your friendship for one another and do that which may not produce disunion amongst you. On hearing this, Yudhishthira asked, O great Muni, whose sons were asuras called Sunda and Upasunda, whence arose that dissension amongst them, and why did they slay each other? Whose daughter also was this Tilottama for whose love the maddened brothers killed each other? Was she an Apsara, water nymph, or the daughter of any celestial? O thou Whcse, wealth is asceticism, we desire, O Brahmana, to hear in detail everything as it happened. Indeed, our curiosity hath become great. Thus ends the 210th section in the Rajalabha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 211, Rajalabha Parva continued. Vasampayana said, hearing these words of Yudhishthira, Narada replied, O son of Pritha, listen with thy brothers to me as I recite this old story, O Yudhishthira, exactly as everything happened. In olden days, a mighty Daitya named Nikumbha, endued with great energy and strength, was born in the race of the great Asura, Hiranyakasipu. Unto this Nikumbha were born two sons called Sunda and Upasunda. Both of them were mighty Asuras endued with great energy and terrible prowess. The brothers were both fierce and possessed of wicked hearts, and those Daityas were both of the same resolution, and ever engaged in achieving the same tasks and ends. They were ever sharers with each other in happiness as well as in woe, each speaking and doing what was agreeable to the other. The brothers never were unless they were together, and never went anywhere unless together. Of exactly the same disposition and habits, they seemed to be one individual divided into two parts. Endued with great energy and ever of the same resolution in everything they undertook, the brothers gradually grew up. Always entertaining the same purpose, desirous of subjugating the three worlds, the brothers, after due initiation, went to the mountains of Vindhya, and wending there, severe were the ascetic penances they performed. Exhausted with hunger and thirst, with matted locks on their heads and attired in barks of trees, long was the time after which they acquired sufficient ascetic merit. Besmearing themselves with dirt from head to foot, living upon air alone, standing on their toes, they threw pieces of the flesh of their bodies into the fire. With arms upraised, and eyelids fixed, long was the period for which they observed their vows. And during the course of their ascetic penances, a wonderful incident occurred there. For the mountains of Vindhya, heated for a long course of years by the power of their ascetic austerities, began to emit vapor from every part of their bodies. And beholding the severity of their austerities, the celestials became alarmed. The gods began to cause numerous obstructions to impede the progress of their asceticism. The celestials repeatedly tempted the brothers by means of every precious possession and the more beautiful girls. By firmly wedded thereto, the brothers broke not their vows. Then the celestials once more manifested, before the illustrious brothers, their powers of illusion. For it seemed their sisters, mothers, wives, and other relatives, with disordered hair and ornaments and robes, were running towards them in terror, pursued and struck by a Rakshasa with a lance in hand. And it seemed that the women implored the help of the brothers, crying, "O save us!" But all this went for nothing, for firmly wedded thereto, the brothers did not still break their vows. And when it was found that all this produced not the slightest impression on any of the two, both the women and the Rakshasa vanished from sight. At last the grandsire himself, the Supreme Lord, ever seeking the welfare of all, came unto those great Asuras and asked them to solicit the boon they desired. Then the brothers Sanda and Upasunda, both of great prowess, beholding the grandsire, rose from their seats and waited with joined hands. And the brothers both said unto the god, "O grandsire, if thou hast been pleased with these our ascetic austerities, and art, O Lord, propitious unto us, then let us have knowledge of all weapons and of all powers of illusion. Let us be endued with great strength, and let us be able to assume any form at will. And last of all, let us also be immortal." Hearing these words of theirs, Brahman said, "Accept the immortality you ask for, you shall be given all that you desire. Solicit you some form of death by which you may still be equal unto the immortals. And since you have undergone these severe ascetic austerities from desire of sovereignty alone, I cannot confer on you the boon of immortality. You have performed your ascetic penances even for the subjugation of the three worlds. It is for this, O mighty Daityas, that I cannot grant you what you desire." Narada continued, hearing these words of Brahman, Sanda and Upasunda said, "O grandsire, let us have no fear then from any created thing, mobile or immobile, in the three worlds, except only from each other." The grandsire then said, "I grant you what you have asked," and said, "Even this your desire." And granting them this boon, the grandsire made them desist from their asceticism, and returned to his own region. Then the brothers, those mighty Daityas, having received those several boons, became incapable of being slain by anybody in the universe. They then returned to their own abode. All their friends and relatives, beholding those Daityas of great intelligence, crowned with success in the matter of the boons they had obtained, became exceedingly glad. And Sanda and Upasunda then cut off their matted locks and wore coronets on their heads. Attired in costly robes and ornaments, they looked exceedingly handsome. They caused the moon to rise over their city every night, even out of his season. And friends and relatives gave themselves up to joy and merriment with happy hearts. Eat, feed, give, make merry, sing, drink, these were the sounds heard every day in every house. And here and there arose loud uproars of hilarity mixed with clappings of hands, which filled the whole city of the Daityas, who, being capable of assuming any form at will, were engaged in every kind of amusement and sport, and scarcely noticed the flight of time, even regarding a whole year as a single day. Thus ends the 211th section in the Rajayabha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Parva. Section 212, Rajalabha Parva continued. Narada continued, as soon as those festivities came to an end, the brothers Sunda and Upasunda, desirous of the sovereignty of the three worlds, took counsel and commanded their forces to be arranged. Obtaining the assent of their friends and relatives, of the elders of the Daitya race and of their ministers of state, and performing the preliminary rites of departure, they set out in the night when the constellation Magha was in the ascendant. The brothers set out with a large Daitya force clad in the mail and armed with maces and axes and lances and clubs. The Daitya heroes set out on their expedition with joyous hearts, the Charanas, bards, chanting auspicious panegyrics indicative of their future triumphs. Furious in war, the Daitya brothers, capable of going everywhere at will, ascended the skies and went to the region of the celestials. The celestials, knowing they were coming, and acquainted also with the whose granted unto them Bhv the supreme deity left heaven, sought refuge in the region of Brahman. Endued with fierce prowess, the Daitya heroes soon subjugated the region of Indra, and vanquishing the diverse tribes of Yakshas and Rakshasas and every creature ranging the skies, came away. Those mighty CNR warriors next subjugated the Nagas of the nether region, and then the inmates of the ocean, and then all the tribes of the Mlechas. Desirous next of subjugating the whole earth, those heroes of irresistible sway, summoning their soldiers, issued these cruel commands: Brahmanas and royal sages, on earth, with their libations and other food offered at grand sacrifices, increase the energy and strength of the gods, as also their prosperity. Engaged in such acts, they are the enemies of the Asuras. All of us, therefore, mustering together, should completely slaughter them off the face of the earth. Ordering their soldier. Thus on the eastern shore of the Gct Ocean, and entertaining such a cruel resolution, the Asura brothers set out in all directions. And those that were performing sacrifices and the Brahmanas that were assisting at those sacrifices, the mighty brothers instantly slew. And slaughtering them with violence, they departed for some other place. Whilst their soldiers threw into the water the sacrificial fires that were in the asylums of Munia with souls under complete control. The curses uttered by the illustrious rishis in wrath, rendered abortive by the boons granted by Brahman, affected not the Asura brother. When the Brahmanas saw that their curses produced not the slightest effect, like shafts shot at stones, they fled in all directions, forsaking their rights and vows. Even those rishis on earth that were crowned with ascetic success, and had their passions under complete control, and were wholly engrossed in meditation of the deity, from fear of the Asura brothers, fled like snakes at the approach of Vinta's son, Garuda the snake-eater. The sacred asylums were all trodden down and broken. The sacrificial jars and vessels being broken, their sacred contents were scattered over the ground. The whole universe became empty, as if its creatures had all been stricken down during the season of general dissolution. And O king, after the rishis had all disappeared and made themselves invisible, both the great Asuras, resolved upon their destruction, began to assume various forms. Assuming the forms of maddened elephants with temples rent from excess of juice, the Asura pair, searching out the Rithis who had sheltered themselves in caves, sent them to the region of Yam. Sometimes becoming as lions and again as tigers, and disappearing the next moment. By these and other methods the cruel couple, seeing the rishis, slew them instantly. sacrifice and study ceased, and kings and Brahmanas were exterminated. The earth became utterly destitute of sacrifices and festivals, and the terrified people uttered cries of "Oh" and "Alas," and all buying and selling were stopped. All religious rites ceased, and the earth became destitute of sacred ceremonies and marriages. Agriculture was neglected, and cattle were no longer tended. Towns and asylums became desolate and scattered over with bones and skeletons. The earth assumed a frightful aspect. All ceremonies in honor of the Pitris were suspended, and the sacred sound of Vashat and the whole circle of auspicious rites ceased. The earth became frightful to behold. The sun and the moon, the planets and stars, and constellations, and the other dwellers in the firmament, witnessing these acts of Sanda and Upasunda, grieved deeply. Subjugating all the points of heaven by means of such cruel acts, the Asura brothers took up their abode in Kurukshetra, without a single rival. Thus ends the 212th section in the Rajalabha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 213, Rajalabha Parva continued. Narada continued, then the celestial rishis, the Siddha, and the high-souled rishis possessing the attributes of tranquility and self-restraint, beholding that act of universal slaughter, were afflicted with great grief. With passions and senses and souls under complete control, they then went to the abode of the grandsire moved by compassion for the universe. Arrived there, they beheld the grandsire seated with gods, siddhas, and brahmarshis around him. There were present that god of gods, viz., Mahadev, and Agni, accompanied by Vayu, and Soma and Surya and Sakra, and rishis devoted to the contemplation of Brahma, and the Vakanasas, the Valikilyas, the Vanaprasthas, the Marichipas, the Ajas, the Avimudas, and other ascetics of great energy. All those rishis were sitting with the grandsire, when the celestial and other rishis, approaching Brahman with sorrowful hearts, represented unto him all the acts of Sanda and Upasunda. And they told the grandsire in detail everything that the Asura brothers had done, and how they had done it, and in what order. Then all celestials and the great rishis pressed the matter before the grandsire. The grandsire, hearing everything they said, reflected for a moment and settled in his mind what he should do. Resolving to compass the destruction of the Asura brothers, he summoned Viswakarman, the celestial architect. Seeing Viswakarman before him, the grandsire possessed of supreme ascetic merit commanded him, saying, "Create them a damsel capable of captivating all hearts." Bowing down unto the grandsire and receiving his command with reverence, the great artificer of the universe created a celestial maiden with careful attention. Visvkrit first collected whatever of handsome creatures, mobile upon the body of the damsel he created. Indeed, the celestial maiden that he created was almost a mass of gems. And created with great care by Viswakarman, the damsel, in beauty, became unrivaled among the women of the three worlds. There was not even a minute part of her body which by its wealth of beauty could not rival upon it the gaze of beholders. And like unto the embodied Shri herself, that damsel of extraordinary beauty captivated the eyes and hearts of every creature. And because she had been created with portions of every gem taken into minute measures, the grandsire bestowed upon her the name of Tilottama. And as soon as he started into life, the damsel bowed to Brahman and with joined hands said, "Lord of every created thing, what task am I to accomplish and what have I been created for?" The grandsire answered, Go, O Tilottama, unto the Asuras Sunda and Upasunda. O amiable one, tempt them with thy captivating beauty. And, O damsel, conduct thyself there in such a way that the Aura brothers may, in consequence of the wealth of thy beauty, quarrel with each other as soon as they cast their eyes upon thee. Narada continued, bowing unto the grandsire, and saying, So be it. The damsel walked round the celestial conclave. The illustrious Brahman was then sitting with face turned eastwards, and Mahadev with face also towards the east, and all the celestials with face northwards, and the rishis with face towards all directions. While Tilottama walked round the conclave of the celestials, Indra and the illustrious Sthanu, Mahadev, were the only ones that succeeded in preserving their tranquility of mind. But exceedingly delirious as Mahadev was, of beholding Tilottama, when the damsel, in her progress round the celestial conclave, was at his side, another face like a full-blown lotus appeared on the southern side of his body. And when she was behind him, another face appeared on the west. And when the damsel was on the northern side of the great GCD, a fourth face appeared on the northern side of his body. Mahadev, who was eager to behold the damsel, came also to have 1,000 eyes, each large and slightly reddish, before, behind and on his flanks. And it was thus that Sthanu the great god came to have 4 faces, and the slayer of Vala, 1,000 eyes. And as regards the mass of the celestials and the Ryahya, they turned their faces towards all directions as Tilottama walked round them. Excepting the divine grandsire himself, the glances of those illustrious personages, even of all of them, fell upon Tilottama's body. And when Tilottama set out for the city of the Auras, beholding the wealth of her beauty, regarded the task as already accomplished. After Tilottama had gone away, the great god, who was the first cause of the universe, dismissed all the celestials and the Ryahya. Thus ends the 213th section in the Rajalabha Parva of the Adiparva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adiparva. Section 214, Rajalabha Parva continued. Narada continued, Meanwhile the Aura brothers, having subjugated the earth, were without a rival. The fatigue of exertion gone, they, having brought the 3 worlds under equal sway, regarded themselves as persons that had nothing more to do. Having brought all the treasures of the gods, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Nagas, Rakshasas, and the kings of the earth, the brothers began to pass their days in great happiness. When they saw they had no rivals in the 3 worlds, they gave up all exertion and devoted their time to pleasure and merriment, like the celestials. They experienced great happiness by giving themselves up to every kind of enjoyment, such as women, and perfumes and floral wreaths and viands, and drinks and many other agreeable objects, all in profusion. In houses and woods and gardens, on hills and in forests, wherever they liked they passed their time in pleasure and amusement, like the immortals. And it so happened that one day they went for purposes of pleasure to a tableland of the Vindhya range, perfectly level and stony, and overgrown with blossoming trees. After every object of desire, all the most agreeable kind, had been brought, the brothers sat on an excellent seat, with happy hearts and accompanied by handsome women. And those damsels, desirous of pleasing the brothers, commenced a dance in accompaniment to music, and sweetly chanted many a song in praise of the mighty pair. Meanwhile Tilottama, attired in a single piece of red silk that exposed all her charms, came along, plucking wild flowers on her way. She advanced slowly to where those mighty auras were gathering as she walked calmly across from the trees that grew along the riverside. The Asura brothers, intoxicated with the large potions they had imbibed, were smitten upon beholding it, the maiden of transcendent beauty. Leaving their seats, they went quickly to where the damsel was. Both of them being under the influence of lust, each sought the maiden for himself. And Sunda seized that maid of fair brows by her right hand. Intoxicated with the boons they had obtained, with physical might, with the wealth and gems they had gathered from every quarter, and with the wine they had drunk, maddened with all these, and influenced by wishful desire, they addressed each other, each contracting his bow in anger. "She is my wife, and therefore your superior," said Sunda. "She is my wife, and therefore your sister-in-law," replied Upasunda. And they said unto each other, "She is mine, not yours," and soon they were under the influence of rage. Maddened by the beauty of the damsel, they soon forgot their love and affection for each other. Both of them, deprived of reason by passion, then took up their fierce misses, each repeating, "I was the first. I was the first," in taking her hand, struck the other. And the fierce Asuras, struck by each other with the make, fell down upon the ground, their bodies bathed in blood, like two suns dislodged from the firmament. And beholding this, the women that had come there, and the other Asuras there present, all fled away trembling in grief and fear, and took refuge in the nether regions. The grandsire himself of pure soul, then came there, accompanied by the celestials, and the great rishis. And the illustrious grandsire applauded Tilottama and expressed his wish of granting her a boon. The supreme deity, before Tilottama spoke, desirous of granting her a boon, cheerfully said, "O beautiful damsel, thou shalt roam in the region of the Adityas. Thy splendor shall be so great that nobody will ever be able to look at thee for any length of time." The grandsire of all creatures, granting this boon unto her, establishing the three worlds in Indra as before, returned to his own region. Narada continued, "It was thus that Asuras, ever united and inspired by the same purpose, slew each other in wrath for the sake of Tilottama. Therefore, from affection I tell you, ye foremost ones of Bharata's line, that if you desire to do anything agreeable to me, make some such arrangements that you may not quarrel with one another for the sake of Draupadi." Vasampayana continued, "The illustrious Pandavas, thus addressed by the great Rishi Narada, consulting with one another, established a rule amongst themselves in the presence of the celestial Rishi himself endued with immeasurable energy. And the rule they made was that when one of them would be sitting with Draupadi, any of the other four who would see that one thus must retire into the forest for 12 years, passing his days as a brahmacharin. After the virtuous Pandavas had established that rule amongst themselves, the great Muni Narada, gratified with them, went to the place he wished. Thus, O Janamejaya, did the Pandavas, urged by Narada, established a rule amongst themselves in regard to their common wife. And it was for this, O Bharata, that no dispute ever arose between them. Thus ends the 214th section in the Rajalabha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 215, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva. Vasampayana said, "The Pandavas, having established such a rule, continued to reside there. By the prowess of their arms they brought many kings under their sway. And Krishna became obedient unto all the 5 sons of Pritha, those lions among men, of immeasurable energy. like the river Saraswati decked with elephants, which again take pleasure in that stream. Draupadi took great delight in her 5 heroic husbands, and they too took delight in her. And in consequence of the illustrious Pandavas being exceedingly virtuous in their practice, the whole race of Kurus, free from sin, and happy, grew in prosperity. After some time, O king, it so happened that certain robbers lifted the cattle of a Brahmana, and while they were carrying away the booty, the Brahmana, deprived of his senses by anger, repaired to Kandava Prastha, and began to reprove the Pandavas in accents of woe. The Brahmana said, Ye Pandavas, from this, your dominion, my kin are even now being taken away by force by despicable and wicked wretches. Pursue ye the thieves. Alas, the sacrificial butter of a peaceful Brahmana is being taken away by crows. Alas, the wretched jackal invadeth the empty cave of a lion. A king that taketh the 6th part of the produce of the land without protecting the subject, hath been called by the wise to be the most sinful person in the whole world. The wealth of a Brahmana is being taken away by robbers. Virtue itself is sustaining a diminution. Take me up by the hand, ye Pandavas, for I am plunged in grief. Vasampayana continued, Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, heard those accents of the Brahmana weeping in bitter grief. As soon as he heard those accents, he loudly assured the Brahmana, Say ing, no fear. But it is so happened that the chamber where the illustrious Pandavas had their weapons was then occupied by Yudhishthira the just with Krishna. Arjuna, therefore, is incapable of entering it, or going alone with the Brahmana, though repeatedly urged to do either, by weeping accents of the Brahmana. Summoned by RLK, Brahmana, Arjuna reflected, with a sorrowful heart, Alas, Saint Bra. Wealth is being robbed. I. Should certainly dry up his tear come to our gate, and is weeping even now. If I do not protect king will be touched with sin in consequence of my indifference, our own irreligiousness will be cited throughout the kingdom, and we shall incur a great sin, if, disregarding the king, I enter the chamber. Without doubt I shall be behaving untruthfully towards the monarch without a foe. By entering the chamber, again, I incur the penalty of an exile in the woods. But I must overlook everything, benefiting the Brahmana thus by making over to him his kin, and winning great renown, the hero returned to the capital. Bowing unto all the elders, and congratulated by everybody, Parth at last approached Yudhishthira, and addressing him, said, Give me leave, O Lord, to observe the vow I took. In beholding thee sitting with Draupadi, I have violated the rule established by ourselves. I shall therefore go into the woods, for this is even our understanding. Then Yudhishthira, suddenly hearing those painful words, became afflicted with grief, and said in an agitated voice, Why? A little while after, King Yudhishthira in grief said unto his brother Dhananjaya of curly hair who never departed from his woes, these words, O sinless one, if I am an authority worthy of regard, listen to what I say. O hero, full well do I know the reason why thou hadst entered my chamber and didst what thou regardest to be an act disagreeable to me. But there is no displeasure in my mind. The younger brother may, without fault, enter the chamber where the elder brother sitteth with his wife. It is only the elder brother that acts against the rules of propriety by entering the room where the younger brother sitteth with his wife. Therefore, O thou of mighty arms, desist from thy purpose. Do what I say. Thy virtue hath sustained no diminution. Thou hast not disregarded me. Arjuna, hearing this, replied, I have heard, even from thee, that quibbling is not permitted in the discharge of duty. I cannot waver from truth. Truth is my weapon. Vasampayana continued, obtaining then the king's permission, Arjuna prepared himself for a forest life, and he went to the forest to live there for 12 years. Thus ends the 215th section in the Arjuna Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 216, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva continued. Vasampayana said, when that spreader of the renown of Kuru's race viz., the strong-armed Arjuna, set out, for the forest, Brahmanas conversant with the Vedas walked behind that illustrious hero to a certain distance. Followed by Brahmanas conversant with the Vedas and their branches and devoted to the contemplation of the Supreme Spirit, by persons skilled in music, by ascetics devoted to the deity, by reciters of Puranas, by narrators of sacred stories, by devotees leading celibate lives, by vanaprasthas, by Brahmanas sweetly reciting celestial histories, and by various other classes of persons of sweet speeches. Arjuna journeyed like Indra followed by the Maruts. And, O thou of Bharata's race, that bull among the Bharatas saw, as he journeyed, many delightful and picturesque forests, lakes, rivers, seas, provinces, and waters. At length, on arriving at the source of the Ganges, the mighty hero thought of settling there. Listen now, O Janamejaya, to a wonderful feat which that foremost of the sons of Pandu, of high soul, did, while living there. When that son of Kunti, O Bharata, and the Brahmanas who had followed him, took up their residence in that region, the latter performed innumerable Agnihotras, sacrificial rites by igniting the sacred fire. And, O king, in consequence of those learned vow observing, and illustrious Brahmanas, who never deviated from the right path, daily establishing and igniting with mantras on the banks of that sacred stream, after the performance of their ablutions, fires for their sacrifices, and pouring libations of clarified butter into the same, and worshipping those fires with offerings of flowers, that region itself where the Ganges entered the plains became exceedingly beautiful. One day that bull amongst the Pandavas, while residing in that region in the midst of those Brahmavi, deck, in Ganges to perform his ablutions. At thought his ablutions had been over, and after he had offered oblations of water unto his deceased ancestors, he was about to get up from the stream to perform his before the fire, when the mighty armed hero, king, was dragged into the bottom of the water by Ulupi, the daughter of the Nagas, urged by the god of desire. And it so happened Eton of Pandu was carried into the beautiful mansion of Kauvya, the king of the Naga. Arjuna saw there a sacrificial fire ignited for himself. Beholding that fire, Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, performed his sacrificial rites with devotion. And Agni was much gratified with Arjuna for the fearlessness with which that hero had poured libations into his manifest form. After he had thus performed his rites before the fire, the son of Kunti, beholding the daughter of the king of the Nagat, addressed her smilingly and said, O handsome girl, what an act of rashness hast thou done, O timid one! Whose this is beautiful region? Who art thou and whose daughter? Hearing these words of Arjuna, Ulupi answered, There is a Naga of the name of Kauvya, born in the line of Airavata. I am, O prince, the daughter of that Kauvya, and my name is Ulupi. O tiger among men, beholding thee descend into the stream to perform thy ablutions, I was deprived of reason by the god of desire. O sinless one, I am still unmarried. Afflicted as I am by the god of desire on account of thee, O thou of Kuru's race, gratify me today by giving thyself up to me. Arjuna replied, commanded by King Yudhishthira, O amiable one, I am undergoing the vow of brahmacharya for 12 years. I am not free to act in any way I like. But, O ranger of the waters, I am still willing to do thy pleasure, if I can. I have never spoken an untruth in my life. Tell me, therefore, O Naga maid, how I may act so that, while doing thy pleasure, I may not be guilty of any untrue breach of duty. Ulupi answered, I know, O son of Pandu, why thou wand over the earth, and why thou hast been commanded to lead the life of a brahmacharya by the superior. Even this was the understanding to which all of you had been pledged, viz. That amongst you all owning Drupada's daughter as your common wife, he who would from ignorance enter the room where one of you would be sitting with her, should lead the life of a brahmacharya in the woods for the exile of any one amongst you, therefore, is only for the sake of Draupadi. Thou art but observing the duty arising from that vow. Thy virtue cannot sustain any diminution, by acceding to my solicitation. Then again, O thou of large eyes, it is a duty to relieve the distressed. Thy virtue suffereth no diminution by relieving me. Or, if, by this act, O Arjuna, thy virtue doth suffer a small diminution, thou wilt acquire great merit by saving my life. Know me for thy worshipper, O Parth. I therefore, yield thyself up to me. Even this, Lord, is the opinion of the wise, viz. That one should accept a woman that wooeth. If thou do not act in this way, know that I will destroy myself. O thou of mighty arms, earn great merit by saving my life. I seek thy shelter, O best of men. Thou protectest always, O son of Kunti, the afflicted and the masterless. I seek thy protection, weeping in sorrow. I woe thee, being filled with desire. Therefore, do what is agreeable to me. It behoveth thee to gratify my wish by yielding thyself up to me. Vasampayana said, thus addressed by the daughter of the king of the Nagas, the son of Kunti did everything she desired, making virtue his motive. The mighty Arjuna, spending the night in the mansion of the Naga, rose with the sun in the morning. Accompanied by Ulupi, he came back from the palace of Kavya to the region where the Ganges entereth the plains. The chaste Ulupi, taking her leave there, returned to her own abode. And, O Bharata, she granted unto Arjuna a boon, making him invincible in water, saying, every amphibious creature shall, without doubt, be vanquishable by thee. Thus ends the 216th section in the Arjuna Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 217, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva continued. Vasampayana said, then the son of the wielder of the thunderbolt narrated everything unto those Brahmanas, residing with him there, set out for the breast of Himamvat. Arriving at the spot called Agastyavatati, he next went to Vashishta's peak. Thence the son of Kunti proceeded to the peak of Bhrigu, purifying himself with ablutions and other rites there. That foremost of the Kurus gave away unto Brahmanas many thousands of cows and many houses. Thence that best of men proceeded to the sacred asylum called Hirnyavindu, performing his ablutions there. That foremost of the sons of Pandu saw many holy regions. Descending from those heights, that chief of men, O Bharata, accompanied by the Brahmanas, journeyed towards the east, desiring to behold the regions that lay in that direction. T.L. Nost, one of Kuru's race, saw many regions of sacred waters one after another, and beholding in the forest of Namisha et delightful river Utpalini, full of lotuses, and the Nanda and the Aprananda, Tlu famed Koishiki, and the mighty rivers Gaya and Ganga, and all the regions of sacred water, he purified himself, O Bharata, with the usual rites, and gave away many cows unto Brahmanas. Whatever regions of sacred waters and whatever other holy palaces there were in Vanga Kalinga, Arjuna visited all of them. Seeing them all and performing proper ceremonies, he gave away much wealth. Then, O Bharata, all those Brahmanas following the son of Pandu, bade him farewell at the gate of the kingdom of Kalinga and desisted from proceeding with him any further. The brave Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, obtaining their leave, went towards the ocean, accompanied by only a few attendants. Crossing the country of the Kalingas, the mighty one proceeded, seeing on his way divers countries and sacred spots and divers delightful mansions and houses. Beholding the Mahendra mountains and with the ascetics residing there, he went to Manipura, propped slowly along the seashore. Beholding all the sacred waters and other holy places in that province, the strong-armed son of Pandu at last went, O king, to the virtuous Chitravahana, the ruler of Manipura. The king of Manipura had a daughter of great beauty named Chitrangada. And it so happened that Arjuna beheld her in her father's palace roving at pleasure. Beholding the handsome daughter of Chitravahana, Arjuna desired to possess her. Going unto the king, her father, he represented unto him what he sought. He said, Give away unto me thy daughter, O king. I am an illustrious Kshatriya's son. Hearing this, the king asked him, Whose son art thou? Arjuna replied, Am Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu and Kunti. The king, hearing this, spoke unto him these words in sweet accents. There was in our king of the name of Prabhajana, who was childless. To obtain a child, he underwent severe ascetic penances. By his severe path, he gratified that god of gods Mahadev, the husband of Uma, that supreme lord holding the mighty book called Maka. The illustrious lord granted him the boon that each successive int of his race should have one child only. In consequence of that boon, only one child is born unto every successive descendant of this race. All my ancestors, one after another, had each a male child. I, however, have only a daughter to perpetuate my race, but, O bull amongst ever, look upon this daughter of mine as my son. O Bharata's race, I have duly made her a putrika. Therefore, one amongst the sons that may be begotten upon her by thee, O Bharata, shall be the perpetuator of my race. That son is the dower for which I may give away my daughter. O son of Pandu, if thou choosest, thou canst take her upon this understanding. Hearing these words of the king, Arjuna accepted them all, saying, So be it. Taking Tvitravahana's daughter as his wife, the son of Kunti resided in that city for 3 years. When Chitrangada at last gave birth to a son, Arjuna embraced that handsome princess affectionately, and taking leave of the king, her father, he set out on his wanderings again. Thus ends the 217th section in the Arjuna Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 218, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then that bull of Bharata's race went to the sacred waters on the banks of the southern ocean, all adorned with the ascetics residing there. And there lay scattered 5 such regions where also dwelt many ascetics. But those 5 waters themselves were shunned by all of them. Those sacred waters were called Agastya, and Subhadra and Poiloma of great holiness, and Karandama of great propitiousness, yielding the fruits of a horse sacrifice unto those that bathe there, and Bharadwaja, that great washer of sins. That foremost one among the Kurus, beholding those 5 sacred waters, and finding them uninhabited, and ascertaining also that they were shunned by the virtuous ascetics dwelling around, asked those pious men with joined hands, saying, Why, O ascetics, are these 5 sacred waters shunned by utterers of Brahma? Hearing him, the ascetics replied, There dwell in these waters 5 large crocodiles which take away the ascetics that may happen to bathe in them. It is for this, O son of Kuru's race, that these waters are shunned. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of the ascetics, that foremost of men endued with mighty arms, though dissuaded by them, went to behold those waters. Arrived at the excellent sacred water called Subhadra after a great rishi, the brave scorcher of all foes suddenly plunged into it to have a bath. As soon as that tiger among men had plunged into the water, a great crocodile, that was in it, seized him by the leg. But the strong-armed Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, that foremost of all men endued with might, seized that struggling ranger of the water and dragged it forcibly to the shore. But dragged by the renowned Arjuna to the land, that crocodile became transformed into a beautiful damsel bedecked with ornament. O king, that charming damsel of celestial form seemed to shine for her beauty and complexion. Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, beholding that strange sight, asked that damsel with a pleased heart, Who art thou, O beautiful one? Why hast thou been a ranger of the waters? Why also didst thou commit such a dreadful sin? The damsel replied, saying, I am, O mighty armed one, an Apsara that sported in the celestial woods. I am, O mighty one, Vaga by name, and ever dear unto the celestial treasurer, Kuvara. I have 4 other companions, all handsome and capable of going everywhere at will. Accompanied by them I was one day going to the abode of Kuvara. On the way we beheld a Brahmana of rigid voice, and exceedingly handsome, studying the Vedas in solitude. The whole forest, in which he was sitting, seemed to be covered with his ascetic splendor. He seemed to have illuminated the whole region like the sun himself. Beholding his ascetic devotion of that nature and his wonderful beauty, we alighted in that region, in order to disturb his meditations. Myself and Sauvai and Samichi and Vuvuda and Lata approached that Brahmana, O Bharata, at the same time. We began to sing and smile and otherwise tempt that Brahmana. But, O hero, that Brahmana, youth, set not his heart even once upon us. His mind fixed on pure meditation, that youth of great energy suffered not his heart to waver. O bull among Kshatriyas, the glance he cast upon us was one of wrath. And he said, staring at us, becoming crocodiles, range ye the waters for 100 years. Thus ends the 218th section in the Arjuna Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 219, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Vaga continued, we were then, O foremost one of Bharata's race, deeply distressed at this curse. We sought to propitiate that Brahmana of ascetic wealth that departed not from his vow, Addressing him, we said, inflected with a sense of our beauty and youth, and urged by the god of desire, we have acted very improperly. It behoveth thcc, O Brahmana, to pardon us. Truly, O Brahmana, it was death to us that we had at all come hither to tempt thee of rigid woes and ascetic wealth. The virtuous, however, have said that women should never be slain. Therefore grow thou in virtue. It behoveth thee not to slay us so. O thou that art conversant with virtue, it hath been said that a Brahmana is ever the friend of every creature. O thou of great prosperity, let this speech of the wise become true. The eminent always protect those that seek protection at their hands. We seek thy protection. It behoveth thee to grant us pardon. Vasampayana continued, thus addressed, that Brahmana of virtuous soul and good deeds and equal in splendor, O hero, unto the sun or the moon, became propitious unto them. And the Brahmana said, the words 100 and 100,000 are all indicative of eternity. The word 100, however, as employed by me is to be understood as a limited period and not indicative of a period without end. Ye shall, therefore, becoming crocodiles, seize and take away men, for only 100 years as explained by me. At the end of that period, an exalted individual will drag you all from water to the land. Then ye will resume your real forms. Never have I spoken an untruth even in jest. Therefore, all that I have said must come to pass. And those sacred waters, within which I assign you your places, will, after you will have been delivered by that individual, become known all over world by the name of Nari Tirthas, or sacred waters connected with the sufferings and the deliverance of females, and all of them shall become sacred and sing cleansing in the eyes of the virtuous and the wise. Vasampayana continued, Vaga then addressing Arjuna, finished her discourse, saying, having these words of the Brahmana, we saluted him with reverence and walked round him. Leaving that region we came away with heavy hearts, thinking as we proceeded, where shall we all soon meet with that man who will give us back our own shapes, after our transformation? As we were thinking of it, in almost a moment, O Bharata, we beheld even the eminent celestial Rishi Narada. Beholding that Rishi of immeasurable energy, our hearts were filled with joy. Saluting him with reverence, O Parth, we stood before him, with blushing faces. He asked of us the cause of our sorrow, we told him all. Hearing what had happened, the Rishi said, in the lowlands bordering on the southern ocean, there are 5 regions of sacred water. They are delightful and eminently holy. Go ye thither without delay. That tiger among men, Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu of pure soul, will soon deliver you, without doubt, from this sad plight. I, O hero, hearing the Rishi's words, all of us came hither. O sinless one, true it is that I have today been delivered by thee, but those 4 friends of mine are still within the other waters here. O hero, do a good deed by delivering them also. Vasampayana continued, then O monarch, that foremost of the Pandavas, endued with great prowess, cheerfully delivered all of them from that curse. Rising from the waters they all regained their own forms. Those Apsaras then, O king, all looked as before. Freeing those sacred waters, from the danger of which they had been notorious, and giving the Apsaras leave to go where they chose, Arjuna became desirous of once more beholding Chitrangada. He, therefore, proceeded towards the city of Manipura. Arrived there he beheld on the throne the son he had begotten upon Chitrangada, and who was called by the name of Vagravana. Seeing Chitrangada once more, Arjuna proceeded, O monarch, towards the spot called Gokarna. Thus ends the 219th section in the Arjun Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 220, Arjuna Vanvasa Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then Arjuna of immeasurable prowess saw, one after another, all the sacred waters and other holy places that were on the shores of the western ocean. Vibhatsu reached the sacred spot called Prabhasa. When the invisible Arjuna arrived at that sacred and delightful region, the slayer of Madhu, Krishna, heard of it. Madhava soon went there to see his friend the son of Kunti. Krishna and Arjuna met together and embracing each other inquired after each other's welfare. Those dear friends, who were none else than the rishis Nara and Narayana of old, sat down. Vasudeva asked Arjuna about his travels, saying, Why, O Pandav, art thou wandering over the earth, beholding all the sacred waters and other holy places? Then Arjuna told him everything that had happened. Hearing Il, that mighty hero of Vrishni's race said, This is as it should be. And Krishna and Arjuna having sported as they liked, for some time at Prabhasa, went to the Ravtaka mountain to pass some days there. Before they arrived at Ravtaka, that mountain had, at the command of Krishna, been well adorned by many artificers. Much food also had, at Krishna's command, been collected there. Enjoying everything that had been collected there for him, Arjuna sat with Vasudeva to see the performances of the actors and the dancers. Then the high-souled Pandav, dismissing them all with proper respect, laid himself down on a well-adorned and excellent bed. As the strong-armed one lay on that excellent bed, he described unto Krishna everything about the sacred waters, the lakes and the mountains, the rivers and the forests he had seen. While he was speaking of these, stretched upon that celestial bed, sleep, or Janamejya, stole upon him. He rose in the morning, awakened, by sweet songs and melodious notes of the veena, guitar, and the panegyrics and benedictions of the bards. After he had gone through the necessary acts and ceremonies, he was affectionately accosted by him of the Vrishni race. Riding upon a golden car, the hero then set out for Dwarka, the capital of the Yadvas. And, O Janamejya, for honoring the son of Kunti, the city of Dwarka was well adorned, even all the gardens and houses within it. The citizens of Dwarka, desirous of beholding the son of Kunti, began to pour eagerly into the public thoroughfares by hundreds of thousands. In the public squares and thoroughfares, hundreds and thousands of women, mixing with the men, swelled the great crowd of the Bhojas, the Vrishnis, and the Andakas, that had collected there. Arjuna was welcomed with respect by all the sons of Bhojas, the Vrishnis, and the Andakas. And he, in his turn, worshipped those that deserved his worship, receiving their blessings. The hero was welcomed with affectionate reception by all the young men of the Yadva tribe. He repeatedly embraced all that were equal to him in age. Wending then to the delightful mansion of Krishna that was filled with gems and every article of enjoyment, he took up his abode there with Krishna for many days. Thus ends the 220th section in the Arjun Vanvasa Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 221, Subhadrahana Parva. Vasampayana said, O best of monarchs, within a few days after this, there commenced on the Ravtaka mountain, a grand festival of the Vrishnis and the Andakas. At the mountain festival of the Bhojas, the Vrishnis and the Andhakas, the heroes of those tribes began to give away much wealth unto Brahmanas by thousands. The region around that hill, O king, was adorned with many a mansion decked with gems and many an artificial tree of gaudy hue. The musicians struck up in concert and the dancers began to dance and the vocalists to sing. And the youths of the Vrishni race, endued with great energy, adorned with every ornament, and riding in their gold-decked cars, looked extremely handsome. The citizens, some on foot and some in excellent cars, with their wives and followers went there by hundreds and thousands, and there was the Lord Haladhara, Valarma, roving at will, hilarious with drink, accompanied by his wife, Revati, and followed by many musicians and vocalists. There came Uttafrasena also, the powerful king of the Vrishni race, accompanied by his 1,000 wives and followed by sweet singers. And Roikmimaya and Shamvan also, ever furious in battle, roved there, excited with drink and adorned with floral wreaths of great beauty and with costly attires, and disported themselves like a pair of celestials. And Akrura and Sarna and Gada, and Vabru, and Nishatha, and Shrudeshna, and Prithu, Viprithu, and Satyak, and Satyaki, and Bhangakara, and Mahrava, and Hardikya, and Uddhava, and many others whose names are not given, accompanied by their wives that followed by bands of singers, adorned that mountain festival. When that delightful festival of immense grandeur commenced, Vasudev and Parth went about, together, beholding everything around. While wandering there, they saw the handsome daughter of Vasudeva, Bhadra by name, decked with every ornament in the midst of her maids. As soon as Arjuna beheld her, he was possessed by the god of desire. Then O Bharata, that tiger among men, Krishna, observing Parth contemplate her with absorbed attention, said with a smile, "How is this? Can the heart of one that wrungeth the woods be agitated by the god of desire? This is my sister, O Parth, and the uterine sister of Sarna. Blessed be thou, her name is Bhadra and she is the favorite daughter of my father. Tell me if thy heart is fixed upon her, for I shall then speak to my father myself." Arjuna answered, "She is Vasudeva's daughter and Vasudev's, Krishna, sister, endued with so much beauty, whom can she not fascinate? If this thy sister, this maid of the Vrishni race, becometh my wife, truly may I win prosperity in everything. Tell me, O Janardana, by what means I may obtain her? To get her I will achieve anything that is achievable by man." Vasudeva answered, "O bull amongst men, self-choice hath been ordained for the marriage of Kshatriyas, but that is doubtful, in its consequences, O Parth, as we do not know this girl's temper and disposition. In the case of Kshatriyas that are brave, a forcible abduction for purposes of marriage is applauded, as the learned have said. Therefore, O Arjuna, carry away this my beautiful sister by force, for who knows what she may do at a self-choice." Then Krishna and Arjuna, having thus settled as to what should be done, sent some speedy messengers unto Yudhishthira at Indraprastha, informing him of everything. The strong-armed Yudhishthira, as soon as he heard it, gave his assent to it. Thus ends the 221st section in the Subhadraharana Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 222, Subhadraharana Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then Dhananjaya, informed of the assent of Yudhishthira, and ascertaining, O Janamejaya, that the maiden had gone to the Ravtaka hill, obtained the assent of Vasudeva also, after having settled in consultation with him all that required to be done. Then that bull of Bharata's race, that foremost of men, with Krishna's assent, riding in his well-built car of gold equipped with rows of small bells and with every kind of weapon, and the clatter of whose wheels resembled the roar of the clouds, and whose splendor was like unto that of a blazing fire, and which struck terror into the hearts of all foes, and unto which were yoked the steeds C.I.E and Sugriva, himself accoutred in mail and armed with sword, and his fingers encased in leathern gloves, set out, as it were, on a hunting expedition. Meanwhile Subhadra, having paid her homage unto that prince of hills, viz. Raftaka, and having worshipped the deities and made the Brahmanas utter benedictions upon her, and having also walked round the hill, was coming towards Dwaravati. The son of Kunti, afflicted with the shafts of the god of desire, suddenly rushed towards that Yadva girl of faultless features and forcibly took her into his car. Having seized that girl of sweet smiles, that tiger among men proceeded in his car of gold towards his own city, Indraprasth. Meanwhile, the armed attendants of Subhadra, beholding her thus seized and taken away, all ran, crying towards the city of Dwarka. Reaching all together the Yadva court called by the name of Sudama, they represented everything about the prowess of Parth unto the chief officer of the court. The chief officer of the court, having heard everything from those messengers, blew his gold-decked trumpet of loud blare, calling all to arms. Stirred up by that sound, the Bhoja, the Vrishnis, and the Andakas began to pour in from all sides. Those that were eating left their food, and those that were drinking left their drink. Those tigers among men, those great warriors of the Vrishni and the Andaka tribes, took their seats upon their 1,000 thrones of gold covered with excellent carpets and variegated with gems and corals and possessed of the luster of blazing fire. Indeed they took their seats upon those thrones, like blazing fires receiving faggots to increase their splendor. And after they were seated in that court which was like unto a conclave of the celestials themselves, the chief officer of the court, assisted by those that stood at his back, spoke of the conduct of Ishnu. The proud Vrishni heroes, of eyes red with wine, as soon as they heard of it, rose up from their seats, unable to brook what Arjuna had done. Some amongst them said, "Yoke our cars," and some, "Bring our weapons," and some said, "Bring our costly bows and strong coats of mail," and some loudly called upon their charioteers to harness their cars, and some, from impatience, themselves yoked their horses decked with gold unto their cars. And while their cars and armors and standards were being brought, loud became the uproar of those heroes. Then Valadeva, white and tall as the peak of Kailas, decked with garlands of wild flowers and attired in blue robes, and proud and intoxicated with drink, said these words, "Ye senseless men, what are ye doing, when Janardana sitteth silent? Without knowing what is in his mind, vainly do we roar in wrath. Let the high soul Krishna give out what he proposeth, accomplish promptly what he desireth to do." Then all of them, hearing those words of Halayudha that deserved to be accepted, exclaimed, "Excellent, excellent." They then all became silent. Silence having been restored by the words of the intelligent Valadeva, they took their seats once more in that assembly. Then Rama, that oppressor of foes, spoke unto Vasudeva, saying, "Why, O Janardana, sittest thou, gazing silently? O Achyuta! It was for thy sake that the son of Pritha had been welcomed and honored by us. It seemeth, however, that vile wretch deserved not our homage. What man is there born of a respectable family that would break the plate after having dined from it? Even if one desired to contact such an alliance, yet remembering all the services he hath received, who is there, desirous of happiness, that acts so rashly? That Pandav, disregarding us and thee too, hath today outraged Subhadra. Desiring to compass his own death, he hath placed his foot on the crown of my head. How shall I, O Govinda, tamely bear it? Shall I not resent it, even like a snake that is trodden upon? Alone shall I today make the earth destitute of Kauravas. Never shall I put up with this transgression by Arjuna. Then all the Bhojas, Vrishnis, and Andakas, present there, approved of everything that Valadeva had said, deeply roaring like unto a kettle drum o'er the clouds. Thus ends the 222nd section in the Subhadrahana Parva of the Adi Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.